Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to my Sesame Podcast. I wanted to let you know a couple of things. This is just going to be a quick one. This is the first one in a series of them that we'll do over the course of this channel to build a more robust history so I could get my extras unlocked, like my community tab. As you know, I have been on somewhat of a vacation in terms of uploading. It's for my emotional health and my physical health, because in October I got to go to my kidney doctor and get checked out for that, and a couple other doctor's appointments in November and one in December. So, yeah. The other two doctor's appointments are regular checkups. Nothing freakish about those. So, to build up this new history, I want to begin with this podcast. As I've said, I was on like a little bit of a vacation to rest up and take care of myself, emotionally, physically, and try to figure out what I want to do to spice up this channel a little bit. I hope you guys are certainly enjoying the street scenes that I have posted and some older DVDs that aren't readily available for digital consumption, which I think is a crime and a shame, especially for us that grew up in the 70s and 80s. We get like a little bit of the classic Sesame Street, but seasons like up through 25, we don't get those. I mean, they've already released season 52 to digital platform for us to buy. But if there's no Bob, no Gordon, no none of that, that's not going to be a buy. The 25-minute jobs will not be a buy in this house. But I've taken at least a couple of months away to kind of relax and just kind of do nothing. Here we are in the throes of September. Let's not forget, we're fast approaching fall. By December 4th of this coming year, it'll be a year since Bob died. And we have to remember that Emilio Delgado died around this time last year also. So, yeah. Two of the biggest ones have passed away within the last year. Plus, let's not forget, the co-creator of Sesame Street recently passed. So, yeah, it's been a rough year. But I'm back on to let everybody know that I'm kind of off vacation for now. I've been trying to get some things uploaded and get some ideas for new videos. I don't want to keep repeating the same things over and over and over again. But as you know, I've been going through a lot in terms of doctor's appointments and my brother having car problems and just things dealing with family. I mean, I even missed my family reunion this year because of my brother's car. His car got damaged when a tree fell on it, and he cannot get it fixed until November. So, yeah, I'm kind of staying away from family functions until we can get the car fixed, because it's the easiest vehicle that I could get in and out of. But I'm getting on here today to give you guys an update on what I want to happen within maybe the next year, is to get me a good, solid working turntable so I could put my 45s on and be able to record them, and to get me a good sturdy turntable to play the 33 versions of the Sesame records that I have. I'll post like a few songs. I know YouTube has been putting limits on people in terms of what you can post, what you can't post, how many you can post. But we're going to move on and move up from that, okay? We're not going to let that stop me from doing what I feel we need to do to keep the classic Sesame Street alive. because kids will not know Bob McGrath the person in person. They'll only know Bob McGrath through videotape. And that to me is very, very sad. Because I've met Bob McGrath at least twice. He seems like a nice enough guy, and kids these days aren't going to have that opportunity. And let's face it, Sesame Street is mostly CGI, and it's all focused solely on the Muppets now. You used to be able to see human and Muppet working together as a concert. It's like you're going to work with an actor, I have a rough clip of Telly and Bob doing I Am Your Friend. And this came from another user on YouTube who said he had it on a Make-A-Wish tape. And from what my friend Baby Lamb Creations had told me, one guy that used to work on the show, his son wrote that song, I Am Your Friend. And he was basically learning that song by ear through headphones. And he told the guy, he says, this is a hard song, but I'm determined to get it right. But they did the rough take of him and Telly singing the song. And he did something that no little person should ever see. Him kind of pretending to strangle Telly, I would treat Telly as if he were another actor. If a little kid were to see that on their little tape for Make-A-Wish, I think that would destroy the magic in a certain extent. But I think Sesame Workshop did a pretty damn good job of ruining the magic for a lot of us. Not just for the little kids, but for the older Sesame Seeds that would often come back to the show over the years and watch just for the enjoyment and maybe get something new out of it. I think we should do something nice, Those that want to do this for Emilio, for fans of Emilio that really look up to him like I look up to Bob, I got something big coming in the mail here sometime in October. It's being made right now. But I want to talk about that in just a second. On the day that I did manage to get out of the house here, I wanted to do something nice for Bob because to me he is a hero. I call him a superhero for a good reason. Because he was there for a lot of kids that don't have it so good. The inner city kids, people with disabilities, most astutely. He's a guy that generally cared about our kids. He gave up a multi-million-dollar career in Japan just to shape the future of our kids. And as I've said in that past video, he said, forget the teenage market. I'm going to do this for our kids. With Jim Henson on board, I know it's going to be something good. And you know something? He was exactly right. And if you grew up with us in the 1970s and 80s, you could see Jerry Nelson play the part of a doctor when Oscar hurt his arm. Olivia takes him to the hospital. And Jerry Nelson, a.k.a. the doctor, would often refer to Oscar as her son, as kind of a running gag. And then there were a couple of episodes where Big Bird had gone to the hospital. One was for his tonsils, and another one was like for the bird pneumonia. It had, I can't think of his name. Shoot, it was right on my tongue earlier today. Robert Klein, I think, played his doctor. And it talks about all the things that some kids go through when they go to the hospital. Like being scared and being angry. And believe me, I know what it's like to be scared and be angry and pissed off. And because I've been to the hospital a couple times. Once for my eyes because I had lazy eye, a couple of leg operations. And, when I go in the hospital, I was scared. The last time I was in was when I was 13 years old. And I'm 15 or 52-year-old now. So 13 to 52, that's not bad. To not have to go in the hospital and stay for 3 or 4 days. I was not a happy camper. I was a nasty patient. I wasn't happy. I wasn't eating. And if my mom left the room, I would curse her out. But she knew I was scared. She didn't like it that I got mad and had a fit. But, a lot of people don't like hospitals. And I could certainly agree with Big Bird on that. Nothing says home more than your comfy bed, or in his case, a comfy nest and a cuddly teddy bear. You don't have people coming in every 2 hours just to poke and prod you and take your temperature. Back in the day when Jim Henson was running things, there was a certain magic about it. And when I say on some episodes where the show may have jumped the shark, yeah. The one about the spider costume is one example. Where Bob, who is a real good sport, by the way, plays the part where he is asked to take part in a play about a spider and his feelings. I just saw this for the first time the other day. And it was kind of an odd one because it starts out with him singing with the kids about no more monkeys jumping on the bed. Then they went into the Eensy Weensy Spider. Then Placido Domingo, an opera singer, again asked him to be part of a play along with some of the kids that were in the group. And this guy put on a spider costume, gets through the play, goes back, changes into his sweater and everything, only to have Telly beg him to put on the spider costume again to count the legs. And to me, I think that was where the show jumped the shark. Because by the end of that particular clip, you see a little puppet spider come on the scene. And by the end of that, I'm like thinking, where in the world were you? Where in the hell were you when Telly needed to have legs counted on a spider? But, it was humiliating and embarrassing in terms for Bob. But like I said, Bob McGrath was always a good sport, either wearing triangles on his clothes or having balls dropped on his head or having they built a picture of a train from back in the 70s. They built a picture of a train. It was him and Emilio trying to put together a picture of this train tunnel. Then the train would try to come up toward them, making them scared. They were real good sports about that. Another one was where Bob tried to train Barkley. And he says, this book ain't teaching, this book don't teach you a thing. And at one point he throws the book only to have Telly bring it back to him. And you could tell he's kind of like, well, shit. And he kind of crosses his eyes and looks down at Barkley. That's what's funny. But when I say jump the shark, by the end of it, people like Mr. McIntosh, his Uncle Wally, and even Gina was laughing at him. But in truth, I wasn't laughing. But, to have Bob put on a spider costume and have water dumped on his face, that's what I call a real good sport. But that spider, the end of the spider segment, really made me feel a little bit uncomfortable and embarrassed and humiliated for him. I I would say the show kind of jumped the shark. It just seemed kind of weird. And there was another one where he had to play a bee in a play. If I could find that one, I would post it and share it with you. And I would like to know if you would have thought that was a cringeworthy moment. It just makes you wonder where the writing was heading at that time. And I think they said at the end of the credits, it was like 1989 when the one with the bee costume or the spider costume had come out. But, when Jim Henson ran things, it was a different animal. Nowadays, it's all about what Muppet can sell the most merchandise. And I hear that things like PBS are in a lot of trouble. HBO Max is somewhat dissolved. So, yeah, a lot of weird things going on. But I want to know, what do you think the downfall of Sesame Street was? Was it the loss of some of the cast? Was it the loss of Jim? Was it the unceremonious firing of Bob, Luis, and Gordon? I call them by their stage names because it's easier. Was it the letting go of the original cast members? Like I said in my past videos, I feel bad for Alan and the young man that is still there. But I can't watch the show. I mean, since Bob died, I've been having a hard time enough as it is. I think I'm very sad because I think Bob's going to be one of those that people will always cry for. I mean, I could hear stuff from Jim like being green. I sat and watched the last of the 25th anniversary of Sesame Street, and they played like being green, I don't want to live on the moon, and I could just feel the sadness that I have. Because, like I said, when Jim died, my brother told me, my older brother told me. I'm like, come on, dude, don't joke. I said, I know you don't like me for liking the Muppets at my age of then 19. He says, no, Jim Henson really died, man. And I think it was Jimmy Smits who said the day that Jim died and it was let out to the world on the tribute to Jim, where they read all the letters, we will miss you, Jim Henson. And one person said, Jim was a very good and talented teacher. He will never be dead in my heart. And I want to say the same thing about Bob. And I'm sure some of those will feel the same for Emilio, David, Mr. Hooper. And I think I learned something about Mr. Hooper in recent years that I think he once taught, James Earl Jones. And he even gave Bob McGrath some acting tips. He didn't patronize. He didn't talk down to people. Nowadays, it's like computer-generated CGI crap. It's kind of like Don Quixote, where everything's always bright and the sun's shiny. But on Sesame Street, they showed that even though people can be happy, but it wasn't always sunshiny. Especially when Mr. Hooper died and Luis breaking his arm, or Big Bird being left out of an adult party. I could certainly understand where Big Bird comes from. I'm not a kid, but when my niece was starting her first years in school, I didn't get to go to any of her open houses at school because my mom was always out there taking care of her when Sis had to work. And I felt left out, and I let my mom know. And I said, well, if that's the way my sister and you are going to be, don't invite me to her graduation because I didn't get to see any of her early years. It's like if I had an open house at my elementary school, you guys always came, but I never got to go. I said all you had to do was tell me what day to be at home so I didn't set up a trip anywhere and you could go to the school, but they never did that. So I understand totally where Big Bird went. You know, he's like, oh, the big yellow one's not allowed at your party. I certainly get where Big Bird is coming from. I'd be just as angry too. And, and they made him felt left out when he was at that party. Everybody else was talking to somebody else. They could have invited him into the conversation and have chips and punch. But nope, he just was kind of left there to stand in his own devices. But thank goodness for a pal like Snuffleupagus. We should have our own party. We could invite kids and it would be great. That's the way it should be. And I think Sesame Street in recent years has lost its mission. It's all about the money and who could sell the most merchandise. I mean, look at what happened. They went to HBO. It kind of defeats the purpose of PBS, and I hear that PBS is in a boatload of trouble. I hear a lot of people want to defund PBS. I'm hoping that isn't true. I mean, I made a donation, but I did it for the Kenny Rogers concert that's coming out on DVD soon. Should be here in a matter of weeks. I made my donation. I pay like $18 a month until I pay down that $200 plus. That's the beauty of donating to PBS nowadays. For those that live on a shoestring budget like me, you almost have to. But public television isn't exactly public television anymore. I used to watch stuff like The Cajun Cook, Justin Wilson, The Cajun Cook, The Joy of Painting, Sesame Street, This Old House, even the one show where they do all these inspections of these antiques and they try to see what price you can get out of them should you decide to sell. I think it's called Antiques Roadshow or something, but other than that, I haven't really watched PBS lately. And anything with Daniel Tiger, if I hear about it through YouTube or Facebook, I put it on my digital platform. I buy it, pay like $10 and have it on my digital platform. So I think PBS is going by the way of, say, MySpace and even Noggin died out. The last good Jim Henson related project was the show Pajanimals. I'm sure you've had little ones that used to watch that on Noggin back in the day, where they had like little vaginettes that you could play before going to bed at night. I've watched a couple of those, and that's cute. That was like the last of the magic of Jim Henson, in my opinion. But speaking of stuff that's coming up, there's a Comic-Con in my city in December, and I heard that Steve Whitmire, the famous Muppeteer, will be a part of that. I'm hoping to go to that. I've been wanting to meet him and talk to him about his career, what he's doing now, and maybe what it was like to work for Jim. And maybe if I ask him nice enough, maybe he'll do Kermit for me. I don't know. Or Ernie. I couldn't think of a better guy to do the voice for Kermit and Ernie. He did a damn fine job. It's like I said, they gave a lot of the good people that actually cared about the direction the Muppets were going in and the vision and scope that Jim had set forth in any of his projects was followed to the letter. And the minute that things were going south, poor Steve Whitmire gets the boot. pissing off a lot of the Sesame fans and Muppet fans as a whole. And I remember seeing an interview where Steve had said, I failed Jim Henson. And he was crying when he said that. He said, I failed Jim Henson. Oh, no. No. Steve Whitmire didn't fail him. Frank Oz didn't fail him. Disney failed the Muppets as a whole. And PBS and HBO and Sesame Workshop failed Sesame Street. And yeah, I've heard the stories that Disney wanted to also take away Sesame Street from us. Which means if they had gotten control of the Sesame properties, we wouldn't be able to put up the street scenes. You know, I wouldn't want a greedy company like Disney overtaking anything. And the Henson Studios is where Chaplin Studios is. It used to be A&M Records. If you go to wherever the Chaplin Studios is, I think it's out in California, you see Kermit dressed up like Charles Chaplin. And they have like a little frog standing there, and then they have a big frog on the building. And I saw that for the first time some years back, and I thought, I wonder what Charlie Chaplin would think. I don't know if he would be happy, because that guy, Charles Chaplin, is a legend. He could take a fall, he could make a joke, and he says, if you want to know more about me, watch my movies, is what he said. So, yeah. But unfortunately, people like J. Edgar Hoover didn't like him. They thought he was a red back in the day and would do anything to get him out of the country, because he lived here without being a legal citizen for many, many years, never caused no real trouble. Of course, he had flings with women, but who didn't in the industry back then? But he built that studio that Henson Studios is in California. Yeah, so. But I think the magic of the Muppets as a whole is basically gone. I mean, there are a lot of Muppet projects that have been looked over. I haven't even seen the sequel to the Muppets, and I don't think I want to either. The one with the mole, with the Kermit with the mole on his face? No. I stayed away from that. Elmo and Grouchland? Forget it. The scene you saw where I put together all the Super Grover scenes is all I've seen of Elmo and Grouchland. Not even Bob McGrath could save that trashy movie. And I like Mandy Patinkin. I like a good musical, but not with Elmo. Elmo has oversaturated himself in the annals of Sesame Street. In fact, a lot of people blame that little red miscreant for tearing down the foundations of Sesame Street. And that's why on my channel, that little red guy will be limited to this channel. But if anybody has any commentaries about where you think where Sesame Street went wrong, feel free to leave it below. Hello. Hope you're having a good day. Sun is out here, and I want to get this done before my brother gets off of work by 5:30, 6 o'clock. But yeah, I've been dealing with my own health issues and trying to keep my wits about myself, and having stomach flu this summer was no fun. Stubbing my toe. Happy birthday. Enjoy. Are you still in school? Or have you graduated? I graduated when I was 19. I got held back a year when I was a kid, but hey, I've been a fighter and I'm a scrapper. And after what Disney and Sesame Workshop is done to the Sesame franchise, I'd say Sesame Street is in a bit of trouble. Things were going along fine until HBO Max took over, but then HBO Max got dissolved. Why, I don't know. And Disney is in a boatload of trouble. They're selling off assets faster than hotcakes. They're tired of things getting jacked up. I had to give up Disney Plus because it's gone up. You almost have to have a gold card to go to the grocery store. Been there, done that, put it in the forget it files and move on. But I want to show you something to make things a little bit happier for us. I've been trying to think of ways that we could all pay tribute to Bob and any character that you like, whether you like Gordon, Olivia, Alan, whoever you like in terms of the human characters. For me, it's Bob, because he's the number one guy. He did the first opening ever of Sesame Street in 1969, and he was the most charismatic character that kids gravitated towards. I've seen a Comic-Con that he did some years ago with Emilio Delgado. And the one thing I noticed is that when people stood up to talk into the microphone, Bob was the one that they went to. There was something about Bob that he's like, you want to talk with me? I'll be glad to talk with you. I make you feel safe. That's great. That's how Bob made me feel. I don't trust a lot of people in this planet. If things in politics haven't told you nothing, I'm kind of glad I stay home. I'm more of a closed off person these days. I cannot trust a lot of people in this world. You just can't. There's not a lot you can trust. Because you can get hurt in ways that I don't want to go into here because it's not for... If you want me to talk about it, I'll talk about it, but you'll have to go over to my one of my big vlogs for that. And it's a wonder how I'm still alive. I'm lucky I haven't either drunk myself to death or did the end game, because there was a couple times I've come close to that. A lot of it had to do with family. A lot of it had to do with how I was treated in general society. But with Bob, I wasn't judged. I wasn't made fun of. I felt cared about. I felt respected. And if I didn't have my parents and family, I would want Bob to be my dad. That's just it. That's one thing I like about people like Bob McGrath. They actually give back to the community. They give back to people in need, especially those with disabilities. Are you kidding me? Very few icons are in the media. Very few. Christopher Reeve had his accident in 1995. There were a lot of sickos out there that took his image of him in a wheelchair and twisted it to feed their own sick fantasies. And people like Donald Trump, are you kidding me? That guy should be up under a prison, talking about hurting women in ways I don't even want to talk about here, because it'll just turn my face red. That's one of the reasons why I'm on medications, because of him. Grab him by the hoo-ha. They let you do it because I'm a big hotshot. No, just shows you're a pervert. And you wonder why women don't like guys. Same thing with men who don't like women that are being assaulted. Yeah, I wish I could find the rest of the Bob's book and cassette kits. I mean, I was lucky to find Dog Lies. I found that on eBay about a month to 2 months ago. And this little machine here, this little plug-in here, took a crap on me when I tried to dub the Chipmunk Adventure to MP3 after I did the Dog Lies tape. So I was really angry. I spent about maybe $75 for that little piece of plastic. They tried to send me a replacement, and I said, no, you know where you could stick it. You're not going to sucker me with another one that could burn up my tapes or tear them up. You're not going to do that. I was lucky to get Dog Lies on the computer. That's why I haven't uploaded any audio. One, they did away with CD rippers for the newer computers. Two, I don't have a setup enough to hook my record player to the computer to transfer the audio. That's why I filmed the one lousy tribute that I did with my tablet. Try holding a tablet and sitting with your feet in front like I'm facing the camera, and you're turning to shoot the turntable. That's hard to do, even for me. But a lot of people have asked me, why did you get mad at Bob McGrath? You know, I kept up a friendship with him for 3 years through mail. I saw him once at a car show. The first time I saw him was at the Ohio State Fair. A friend of mine and myself were at the fair, and we were getting out of the heat because it was so hot. You're sitting in construction-type wheelchairs, the metal jobs, and you're roasting to death in the hot sun on blacktop. We go in, and here he comes walking through, and we talked, and it was just like a big thrill. Then when Sing Me a Story came out in 1995, I saw it had an address. So I thought, I'll try and write him a letter. And I started getting postcards, and I would carry one in my purse for a morale boost if I was feeling down about myself. Because like I said, I've been beat down by most of general society. Oh, I had a teacher tell me, you'll never get anywhere if you don't understand what you read. You're a useless member to society. A woman that told me that at 7 years old. And when you're at that age, you're very impressionable. You think you're worthless, you ain't worth nothing. You know, and one guy, said, I want a piece of you. This was, back, I think around 2007, 2008. I was nearly sexually accosted by a special needs driver for another service that my CODA bus had extended service to help with the passengers that they take around the city for work or fun. And the guy said, I want a piece of you. And I'm like, excuse me? He says, yeah, we can go to a hotel and get it on real good. And I said, no, and no. And it took 20 minutes for that numbskull to get it through his head. I had no interest. By the time I got home, this is the time I had no phone. By the time I got home, my mom was outside in the middle of January in her nightgown and housecoat waiting for me to come home. And I made the mistake of stating that I was hungry. My friend didn't have much food in her apartment, and he took me to a McDonald's. He got me food, but then he started making advances I didn't want. And I cried for weeks after that. And I'm like, seeing my dad, who was sick, didn't know it was close to his last year on this planet. And he said, you okay? And I said, no. I said, you tell me what a piece of crap I am. Tell me how stupid I am. And he said, no, you were outside in the garage for over an hour. You beat yourself up pretty good. He says, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to get a lawyer. I said, that guy did it to me once. He's not going to do it to me again. And my regular CODA bus sided with us, while Urban Express, the one they contracted out, called me and my friend a liar because he hit on her too. So even though my lawyer fought like hell to get my case through the courts. It didn't happen. But he would later get caught when somebody searched his locker and found a camera with a bunch of pornographic material on it with other writers. So, yeah. Since then, I've had my walls all the way up. I have to. And then for 3 years, I kept up this contact with Bob McGrath. I sent him a picture. I sent him a couple cards. One was a Rugrat card and some other ones. And then his wife would say, "Oh, he can't come to your birthday because he's busy." And I understand that. He works for PBS and he does things for that Telemiracle. But I invited him anyway because I thought there's just a slight chance. It's a slim chance, but a slight chance, but a chance nonetheless. He couldn't make it, so she and he sent a card and wished us a happy birthday and thought, such and such an age, when we were that age, we thought it was old then too. Then one day, she says, he cannot write, she goes, "Bob is very busy. He can't write to you. You'll have to accept that as part of reality, yada, yada, yada." And the way she said it, it put me in a silent mode. My mom had to read the letter. And she says, "Well, you could still write to him." And I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "Right now, I just want to go in, curl up on my bed, and be alone." I didn't cry, but I just pent up all that feeling. I was so numb, I didn't feel a thing. But when the shock wore off, the anger set in. And I used to have a picture of some of the cast sitting in the Around the Corner set, with the teeter-totter and stuff, with all the signatures on it. I got so mad, I turned that damn thing into confetti. And my mom says, "Are you sure?" She's like, you did what you did. And I said, "Yeah, I did, didn't I?" I said, "It was just my way of dealing with the anger." I said, "Better a picture than a hole in the wall." But, I felt like I was lied to. He couldn't tell me himself. He said he wasn't much of a letter writer, but like I said, if she had just said, he's busy, she could have said, "I know it gives you joy to send him letters and the drawing that you sent to him, and you can keep writing, but he's very busy and he appreciates everything you sent." That's all she had to say. But she said, "You'll have to accept it as part of reality. That's like a knife. That's like a knife to somebody that doesn't trust a lot of people." So, yeah. So after that, I never wrote to him again. And I heard that he was doing a live Q&A for GalaxyCon, but I didn't have the money to do it. And if I were to do it, I would have talked to Steve Whitmire. So I certainly wasn't in the mood to talk to Bob at that time. I guess I'll always be a little angry with him, but what can you do? I said at that time when that letter was sent, I didn't know how to feel. I was just numb. But my mom knew how much I liked Bob and that I didn't trust a lot of people, but, it happened. And I just moved on with my life and took care of family until my parents died. But I don't know. When I heard that Bob and them got fired, I was like really mad. I wonder what Will Lee would have thought when Bob and them were canned. I wonder what Jim would have thought. And I think Sonia Manzano jumped ship at the right time. I think she knew a big change was coming and it wasn't going to be good. Let's be honest. She's doing well with Alma's Way, and I'm proud of her. I feel sad for people that played, the person that played David, Linda, Bob, Gordon, Olivia, Mr. Hooper, and let's see, Mr. McIntosh, the guy who played him, Uncle Wally. I wonder how they wrote off Linda Bove off the show. Anyway, I know they said David had left and gone to college to practice law. At least that's what I heard. Yeah, I know. I know. And the way he died was such a sad, effed up situation, man. I heard he lost his mind. And I noticed from 78 to 82, he started gaining a little bit of weight. I heard he had a few meltdowns that caused him to go into medical treatment. And I did have a couple of books with Northern J. Calloway. One of them was Super Vroomer. I don't know if I still have it because my basement flooded about a year or two ago, but I did have a book. I do have one book. It's called It's Not Fair, where Ernie and Bert decide to have a lemonade stand, but Bert does all the work and Ernie took all the credit because it had Bob McGrath in the book. And it just felt like I was reading a book from my childhood. I used to have the Mr. Hooper book, but my former nieces tore up the book in the middle of my backyard. I was so mad. I said, I can't find that damn book anymore. So, yeah. Yeah. And the sad thing is, there's no biography for Bob McGrath. There's no real biography for Northern J. There's no real biography for Will Lee. I would like to learn about their lives and where the hell they came from. And speaking of that, I want to do something nice for Bob, right? I was going to wait until the thing showed up, but it won't be until sometime in October. I've always thought of Bob McGrath as a superhero. It's too bad he didn't get to play one on the show. They had Emilio Delgado play a couple of them. One in a skit where they shrunk him down from big to little. And another one he played like a Zorro-like character. But I would have thought Bob is a good mentor to Super Grover. He's like a dad to Big Bird, and he's like a dad to Grover. So I'm having a cape made in honor of Bob McGrath. A satin cape with the name Bob on the back with a lightning bolt through it. I've already put in the order last night. Hopefully it'll be here soon, but I don't know. I'm kind of getting anxious for it. But go to Etsy. You can find a lot of those things on there. So, yeah. I've done some buying on Etsy. And the lady I'm buying it from, I'm looking it up right now. Go to my purchases. And I will share the link if it'll fit. Go to my order. And I'll share the page with you. So if you want to make a cape for Bob, go ahead. But it says the estimated delivery for mine is September 26th through October 6th. So I'm definitely keeping tabs. Because she knows who I'm having it made for. So let's see. Go to the page. And I will share it with you. So, yeah. And all you have to do is, if you want, you can flip through. If you're an adult, you can flip through and you can look at the picture. Yeah, I know. Here's the link to making a cape for Bob. That's what I'm going to do. And on the date of his anniversary, you can bet I'll be wearing it. I'll probably be wearing it on Halloween. Maybe I'll wear it to bed. I don't know. But, yeah. So, this person in the chat says Sesame Workshop did a lot of people wrong when they decided to go into a different direction. They cut everyone loose because it was a terrible way to treat all the actors. Of course, that's what I said. They did not want to renew contracts. That's the whole thing. They didn't want to renew contracts. And as I've said in my past videos, there was no miscommunication. There was none. Absolutely none. And it was like, here's your pink slip. Get out. It's all about the Muppets anyway. I wish I could find the Donahue show that they had Bob and some of the cast on from years ago and be able to post it. But I haven't been able to find it anywhere, not even on Internet Archive. I can't. I just can't. And making those music tributes to Bob was some of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Because, for the first time in a long time, I've actually cried for a celebrity. When Robin Gibb died in 2013, I worshiped the ground that guy walked on. I loved him to death. He had the voice to die for. I could talk about him for hours. But when I saw some of the funeral footage where in his town over in England somewhere, they had a horse-drawn carriage and they were walking through the town following his casket, and somebody had put the song Rings Around the Moon to that footage in different pictures. I couldn't cry. And even if I see the video today, I still don't cry. But the minute Bob died, I was a mess. I couldn't deal with it. That's how the one mistake happened on one of my videos. Where Oscar does the sound off. He dreams about not having any noise and uses it to deaden the noise of Bob's instruments and Gordon's hammer. I was in such a state of grief, I didn't know whether I was coming or going. And then hearing some of the Celine songs, like from Titanic stuff. Oh, I was a mess. And sometimes I lay in bed and I play it through my TV. I'm on my vlog on this one, on the TV. So I watch it through my TV and I burst into tears and I cry myself to sleep. And it's awful. It's awful. I may be mad at Bob, but doing somebody wrong like that gave about 95% of their goddamn careers? Are you kidding me? I mean, look at Roscoe Orman. He started out as a movie actor. Go down through different media that stars Sesame Street stars. You'll find a movie that he's in, and it's not for young ears to hear. That's why this channel is not for kids. It never will be for kids. If they want to watch these street scenes, they have YouTube Kids for that. They gave a multitude of their fucking careers. And this is how they get treated? It happened to my brother at his job at Macy's Furniture. Worked there for 35 years since he got out of high school in 84. Yeah. I know. Carol Spinney is the ultimate Big Bird and the ultimate Oscar. Not Matt Vogel. For God's sake, not Matt Vogel. And the way they did Steve Whitmire, that was a big clusterfuck of a mess if I've ever seen one. And I'm sorry to the PC police on YouTube, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. That's how I lost my community tab on here too. So, yeah, they say you're not having a positive influence on people. Yeah, you should have thought about that when Elliot Rodger caused trouble years ago. Isla Vista murder, remember? Come on. And good people like Bob McGrath, people like Peter Tork of the Monkees, Mickey Dolenz is the last man standing of the Monkees. So, yeah. And Barry Gibb is the last man standing of the Bee Gees. I'm not real big on Barry Gibb, but he doesn't deserve to lose his brothers all at once within a span of 10 years. Are you kidding me? The world's sad. I mean, it really is. Yeah. And I heard somebody talking on YouTube where some user on YouTube is taking the likeness of Kermit and doing unspeakable things. It looks like a kid's video, but it isn't. It's more like trashing the image of Kermit. And it's like the character Kermit has lost its personality. And I think that's what, I can't think of his name, Whitmire was fighting against. He's like, what the hell are we doing? Are we trying to be not like the tabloids, or are we becoming the tabloids? And I think fans who do disgraceful things with the Muppets are defaming the name of Jim Henson. They're defaming the name of Bob McGrath. They're defaming the name of anybody who's worked with the Muppets. Even Mickey Dolenz appeared on Muppets Tonight. And people tag Mickey Dolenz as a monkey. But he's a well-respected actor. At least to me he is. Check out the episode Mike Hammer Deadly Collection. And then you'll see how serious Mickey Dolenz is. Mike Hammer's episode Deadly Collection. Check that out. Check that out this weekend when you get a chance. But I think the worst part about what Sesame Workshop has done with the properties over the years is that when CDs came in the 90s, they started reissuing some of the records to CD. Like the Christmas one is a prime example, okay? I go into my SSI money, because I'm disabled, and I buy the Christmas album, put it in my CD player and play it, and they take out characters like David and Mr. Hooper. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I said, that's not the album that I remember hearing as a kid. And they said, oh, they took out the voices because they're not there anymore. But I said, maybe so, but it's a part of Sesame history. It's a part of Sesame history. Let's face it. Jim Henson, Richard Hunt, and whoever else was doing the voices at that time, it's a part of history. And it's like saying, well, Bob McGrath's gone. Maybe we should take him off the DVDs. Not going to happen. Never going to happen. Never, ever will it happen. I have yet to see Don't Eat the Pictures come out on digital platform. Get rid of that stupid Elmo Saves Christmas and I'd be really happy. I know Bob's in it, but I can't watch it. I cannot stand that little red creep any further than I can throw him. And I think that's the problem. He oversaturated the Muppets. Yeah. Thank you. But it's not just me that's sharing all these great memories. It's just people like Little Jerry Fan and Sesame Maniac. But a lot of their comments get turned off. But I put adult music on here, some stuff that I grew up with, and I try to keep the comments open so that we could all talk about it. I mean, we're not little tiny kids that you could put in the corner and say, oh, you can't talk about this or you can't talk about that. I'm fighting for our right to talk about it. Because I am so mad at Sesame Workshop, HBO Max, or Max as it's now called, for doing what they did. And I think I knew the dynasty, as it were, was going to die for Sesame Street the day they removed Jim's name from the title. You know, I remember the little animated little thing at the end of each show, you know, where they have the kids in front of a green screen dancing, and they even had Big Bird and an animated segment with a tram going through, you know, and when you saw Jim's name in the title, you knew it was going to be good. But the day they removed the title, and I said, uh-oh, that's not good. I mean, I used to go to work I used to volunteer at the American Red Cross, doing blood cards and entering people in the computer and working behind the scenes until I couldn't do it anymore. It got to be too expensive because they weren't paying me. All the bus fare was coming out of my pocket. And when my bus service started raising prices, I had to decide, should I continue to volunteer or should I just go home, spend time with family? I took the family first. So, yeah. So, I've been trying to find a good copy of Big Bird's Birthday, Let Me Eat Cake, where Cookie Monster was always hungry, and they're trying to get ready to celebrate Big Bird's birthday party. But the copy I found on YouTube wasn't very good for me to cut together. So I couldn't find it. And that's one thing that makes me sad. I would even like to see any filmed recording sessions if they had it. I'd like to see the one where they had Robin Gibb come in and do Sesame Street Fever and Trash. I've seen pictures of him in the recording studio with members of Henson's crew. And I do have Secrets of the Muppets. That's the one that will be on this channel. Anything else Disney related will not. And I think it's rather sad that Sesame Street has gone down the way it has. I mean, you don't even get much done in 25 minutes in terms of puppetry. And it's all Elmo. And Abby Cadabby is not a bad character, you know, but they've gone more towards animation and less on the puppets. It's kind of putting the Muppeteers out of a job. And, you know, Frank Oz, a.k.a. Bert, and whoever else he's voiced over the years, he wants to come back and do Bert and other characters. But Sesame Workshop has not asked him back. And he says he cannot watch a Muppet Project because of what happened. I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. And if I buy any Sesame records, they're through eBay because I know Sesame Workshop will not be getting the proceeds from. So their loss, our gain, right? I have Boy from Indiana on 45, Sir Duke on 45, and one other, and some Bob McGrath 45s. But the 45s of Bob McGrath from Japan are pricey. They're well over $100, and I can't keep doing that. But, you know, Bob McGrath was my superhero. I felt safe with him. I felt cared about. And there was a warmth to him, you know, and I think it was very genuine. And then when I started this channel, they said, oh, you know, Bob's gay, right? And I blocked him outright. And I said, even if he was, it still doesn't change the fact that he gave up his career to help give our kids a good baseline education when most kids can't get a good baseline education to begin with because they're inner city. Disney has killed the Muppets. They lied to Jim so they could get their hands on the characters. They don't know what the hell they're doing. You know, and I think the only ones who know what the hell they're doing their own thing now. And I'm going to be sad when Frank Oz is gone. I miss Jerry Nelson. He was a badass. And Steve Whitmire has the rock and roll voice to prove it. Go back and watch The Secrets of the Muppets where they're singing, "The music keeps on rolling along, and I got my friends, and I got my song." You know, that one. Yeah. And you hear him singing. He could be a rock and roll singer if he wanted to. And he said he was coming to Columbus, Ohio, so I might try to get down there to see him, but I wouldn't know what to say. I wouldn't know what to do, and I don't know where my Kermit puppet is. But I'm going to try and go see him. I don't care. I got to achieve some of my dreams, right? I think I just feel so bad because I know Bob McGrath, he loved what he did. He knew what was important, and he knew it right then and there. The day he met Jim, they had to convince him because at first he didn't want to do the show. He really did not want to do the show. And I think the saddest thing is if Jim was looking down, he's like, where's the people that I put in place? I know they're going to be training others to take over. But what the hell happened to my creations? What happened to my children? You know, a family is a family, okay? That's what the Muppet Crew was all about. You know, they did puppets for a living. It's normally considered a kiddie thing, but they had a hell of a good time doing it. I wish I could find that other Muppet movie that came out that wasn't related to the Muppets, and I think Sesame Street or Disney tried to sue. And whoever made that movie gave them the biggest middle finger. They said, tough, we can do this movie, whether you like it or not. You know, Jim was doing projects for everybody. Men, women, children. But there were certain projects that he wanted to do just for the adult set. Timepiece is a good example of that. It goes over my head, so I avoid it. That's not my thing. Yep. And there was a character by the name of Rufus. I'm sure if you go through my videos, I did one for my video vlog channel for my birthday. And at the end of it, I put the birthday segment of Allison having her 5th birthday. And Bob talks about a song about growing up. And it seems like every year, it seems like it takes forever for birthdays to come. And he sings that song, Turn Around. Yeah. He and Susan were there from the very beginning. Let's talk about Matt Robinson for a second. Granted, he was one of the first Gordons. Something about Matt Robinson kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know if it was just me, but I got like a vibe like he says, oh, this is just a job. I'm interacting with puppets. It pays the bills. It just got this feeling like I don't want to be there. But Roscoe Orman, I think, seemed to be the best fit. I mean, I know they had another guy from the pilot, but I don't know why he didn't stick around. But Roscoe Orman came in, and Emilio Delgado came in. You know, it's just very strange because if you watch the pilot of the episode of Sesame Street, everything was connected. Like the Brimstone and Hooper Store were connected all as one. But then when the show started going on regular production, they put the Hooper Store over this way when the Brimstone was over here. And I'm glad they changed Oscar's color. Oh my God. Seeing him orange? Are you kidding me? That looked like an alien to me. Snuffy, when he started, looked like a freakish nightmare with the yellow eyes. Oh, wow. I'm glad they toned him down. I'm glad he's not scary. But I got so sick and tired of them not believing Big Bird. I got so sick and tired, especially after the Hawaii episode, where they were leaving and they didn't want to talk about Snuffy anymore and they hurt Big Bird's feelings. I don't think they ever apologized. And there was another one where I think Snuffy wanted to try and fool the adults. I think it was something about a Snuffleupagus. And Bob thinks it's Big Bird in there. And then Big Bird pops his head out and he's like, "What are you doing, Bob?" Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Kermit Love, I know. I can't remember the guy who played Macintosh right now, but I liked him too. He was the guy that sold Christmas trees, and he also ran the fruit stand. Uncle Wally was a trip. I'm wondering how they didn't get in trouble with Disney creators for the magic suitcase, where he pulls out the ladder. Yeah, and different things out of his suitcase. How he not catch hell for that? And another one that they didn't catch hell for was Indianapolis, Bob's brother. Couldn't they think of a better name for Bob's brother, like Billy or Gene or John? You know? They made him like a blatant ripoff of Indiana Jones. How in the hell that show didn't get in trouble for straight up plagiarism? Another one I really liked, there was one that I really liked that makes me laugh my head off. The one about the talking telephone. The neighborhood payphone. And Bob's wanting to know the correct time, and he's like, no, just the phone. It says the phone right on me. And he's like, he says, "I'm just trying to figure out the time." He says, "Well, I'll give you the time." And he says, "A quarter past a chicken." Ha 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 ha. And I know that was Jerry Nelson doing that. And the funniest part of that was where he calls back and Bob's complaining. He's like, "Why do I do this?" And I'm saying to the TV recently, it's because he knows you'll fall for it. And he gets the big bongs in his ears. And by the time he's done, he looks high as hell. And David's looking at him like crazy. And that's what I mean by the bee costume also. Or the spider costume. He is stupid enough to go into his apartment and put that bee suit or that costume back on, go outside so Telly could count the legs on it. But, and he gets locked out and everybody's giving him weird looks, including his Uncle Wally, David, and Gina starts laughing at him. And you could tell he looked really angry. I don't know if it was real or scripted or what, but he didn't look happy. And I wasn't laughing. I just felt really bad. And I'm thinking, those suckers are lucky that they had a good sport to do that. And there was another one where he was supposed to play a bee and he buzzed like a bee. I can't remember what episode that was. I think it was one of Prairie Dawn's stupid plays. And he goes, Zzz, and he didn't look happy doing it. And I just felt like, ugh. Who wrote that storyline? It just felt weird to me. I'm like, where is this writing going? Because back in the day, you could watch an episode of Sesame Street. It didn't matter how old you were. You could watch a story and enjoy it, and you could relate to it. Like young Tara, when she was staying at Gabby's house during a rainstorm. She has brittle bone disease. I've known a few people in my lifetime that had that disease, and it's not fun. Any little bump could break a bone. any bump could move a rod that may be in the back. And I know one time I was going on a field trip somewhere, but I can't remember where, but we hit a bump leaving the school from Coleraine Elementary. And her back started hurting and she was crying, and we had to turn the bus around and take her back to school. Oh, man. But the writing really went down the toilet in some episodes, man. And I still wonder how they wrote Bob off the show. I haven't even watched. I couldn't. I know they ran some older episodes, but I just couldn't watch. I was too heartbroken. I don't think I ever will. Jim Henson's been gone for about 33 years. 33 years this past May. And I hear I don't want to live on the moon or being green, and I start to cry. And it's just like if I hear something with Bob, if it's a tender melody like See You Tomorrow or something like that, or I use a particular song and I see his face and I start to cry. Like there's a song on, I think, my birthday tribute that I did for my birthday in celebration of my big day and to honor Bob. I used John Denver's Looking for Space, and I start to cry watching the images on the screen. I miss him, I miss him, I miss him. And as I've said, I think Bob was the magic secret to blend with Jim Henson's creations. Because let's face it, I think without Bob there to start it off, I don't think they would have a show. Because without the Muppets to mix it up and give a little bit of perspective, I don't think we would have a show. And I think it's rather sad that that Jim Henson isn't here. Excuse me. But Jim Henson isn't here. And his own kids let down the Muppet legacy. And I think it's sad. I think it's really sad. They didn't want Steve Whitmire standing up to the corporate giant. I think the corporate giant destroyed him, And I think the corporate giant has destroyed Sesame Street. And maybe it's time to put the show to bed. I think it's time we put the show to bed. I won't ever watch Sesame Street. No Bob, no way. I just think Jim Henson would be very upset. And even Zoe sounds different. I saw like a thing on Bob's page where they talked about besties, best friends, and they made a mention of Bob. But Zoe sounds a bit too old. Zoe sounds a bit too old for a 3-year-old. Yep. Saying Goodbye is the one. That's used in the tribute for my birthday. Go down through my Bob McGrath tributes. It's on the page. And it says, Saying Goodbye. Why is it sad? It makes us remember all the good times we've had. So much to say. It's foolish to try. It's time for saying goodbye. Don't want to leave, but we both know, but sometimes it's better to go. And Fozzie says it best at the end. He says, somehow I know we'll meet again. Not sure quite where, not sure quite when. And he says, I want to smile, I want to cry, saying goodbye. And I didn't really cry after Bob died because I was going through my own crap at the time and dealing with holidays and all the crap. And I have a hard time with holidays and birthdays without my parents. And I just not really in the holiday mood. And I haven't been for the last, since 2013. So, yeah. I met Andrew McCarthy not even 2 days after losing my mom. So I almost dropped out of that. My brother said, "No, you're going to go meet this guy. Mom was so happy you won that contest. You're going to go." And he says, "You don't have a guest with you, sweetheart?" And I said, "No." I said, "We had a bit of a family emergency. I'm not down there because I had my dogs here, but my sister-in-law is watching the dogs so I could come and meet you. But my mom died not even 2 days ago." And he gave me the biggest hug. That saved my life. And he checked on me before I left that day. This was like January 20th of 2013. And he says, "You going to be okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so. I'll have my down days, but I think with your help and your support, I think I'll make it through." And my mom told me to take some video. I said, "My mom wants me to take some video and post it to YouTube, and I'm going to do exactly that." And I might post it on my vlog channel, but I don't know. I'm very protective of that because a lot of people might think it's weird that I'm like filming and screaming like a fangirl or yelling like a fangirl. But when you meet somebody that nice at a time when you really need somebody, you got to have something to hold on to. I hate being 52 years old, man. It stinks. Because all the people that we love are passing away from us. Yep. And without Bob and Jim, there really isn't no Sesame Street. I mean, the vibe's different. It's a totally different animal. You wouldn't pay me to watch Sesame Street these days. And people say, "Why do you hate Elmo so much?" And I said, "Have you seen the DVDs? Everything I see has Elmo on it. Elmo this, Elmo that." Oh, yeah, I forgot about the Jimmy Dean show. And he did the Troy Dragon, too. You get like the little things to make your own Chinese food at home, like LaCroix noodles. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we won't have nobody, even Barry Manilow. Barry Manilow. That guy's 80 years old. I've been listening to him since I was 7. And here's something funny that I've never told anybody on this platform. That I had a really big ear for music ever since I was little, from Olivia Newton-John to the Bee Gees to I hear Mickey Mouse Disco to the Smurfs to Al Stewart. My mom always said I had an incredible ear for music. And when Barry Manilow had his greatest hits album from 1978 come out, I remember begging my mom for it. And she came home one day with it from her work. She used to work for Lazarus. It was a clothing and all kinds of store. And she says, "I can't believe you made me get this." And at 7 years old, I heard my mom grousing. And I said, "Well then, okay, take it back." She goes, "Well, I can't take it back now. You may as well listen to it and enjoy it." But I was a feisty little thing. I was a fighter. And there was one other actor that got where I was coming from, and I never met this guy. You might know Judge Reinhold from Beverly Hills Cop or vice versa from the 1980s. He shot down his career after Beverly Hills Cop 3 went into the toilet. And he says, "I know who sells the tickets. It sure as hell ain't me." And he tore down his career so bad, my heart went out to him. And I wrote him a life, I wrote about my life in a letter in not so many words. I said, "I'm a person with a disability. I'm such and such an age at the year 2000 and something. And I said, I'm a lot like you. I have to get out there in the world and I have to prove myself to people that I am a person, that I deserve to be treated with love, dignity, and respect, and that I should be able to get out there and work hard, but I can't because of the one-sided workforce. But I said, I said, I watch you, Eddie Murphy, and John Ashton because you guys are a family. That's it. There's nothing going to change that. You sell the tickets. I like watching you three together. You're great. And I said, you'll get that lead role, and even if you don't, it's their loss. And he sent me a picture, and it was to Pamela. You sure did show them. You're a real spitfire. You keep on showing them, girl. And he signed it with love, Judge Reinhold. I have it up here on my dresser, which you can see in the back here. That's my mantra for getting my butt out of bed every morning. Other than that, I don't trust very many people. I can't. I get called stupid, retard. I should be institutionalized. You're useless. You're nothing. And when I found out from Anne that I should accept him not writing to me as a part of reality, that kind of shattered my image of him a little bit. So when I watch the show, I think of him as Bob Johnson. Yeah. So, yeah. And Anne needs to know that she could have said the end of that letter a little better. I know it brings you joy to write him a letter. It gives you somebody else to connect to other than your family. You need somebody that you could lean on when you really need somebody to talk to. Yeah, I have that on DVD and digital. Yeah, and he rarely made waves in the news. I know one time he got in trouble for something at an airport, but then he owned up to his mistake. He says, I wasn't in my right mind. I had a fit, and now I own that. And he was upset. And it doesn't change my view of the man, okay? He's had a long career, and I'm proud of him. Lead role or no lead role. And sometimes I think people like him know that a lot of people don't have it so good in this life. And I said, even if you don't get that lead role, buddy, it's their loss, not yours. Don't beat down your career like that. Because I basically said, if you do, they win. That's why I try not to let the one-sided workforce dictate to me how I'm going to live the rest of my life. People call me lazy because I live off the government. Well, not necessarily my fault. How can I trust people when they don't even bother to give me the time of day? A lot of people like me used to be institutionalized. Look at Katherine Jackson. She had polio and had some of the greatest sons that ever graced this planet. Michael Joseph Jackson being the one. So don't tell me that disabled people cannot do great things. Christopher Reeve, God rest his soul, he wasn't going to be content with being stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. He started moving his finger again before he died. So who knows what could happen. And like I said, a lot of MFs out there wanted to do sick things with his image, like making him look like he fell out of his wheelchair. And he raised a beautiful kid and still taught his young son Will to ride a bike, even from giving directions in his wheelchair. Not very many fathers with a disability can do that. And his son is in media, believe it or not, and a very well-spoken, well-respected young man. And I know he did a couple pieces for Sesame Street. One was doing the alphabet, and one was talking about his wheelchair with young Zoe. So, yeah, it's hard to believe that his kid is what now, 30? I think, close to? Yeah. And I still miss Christopher Reeve to this very day. And he was another one that I managed to get in touch with in Culpeper, Virginia. Even though his mother had to write for him. And I said to Chris, I said, just wanted to write you a letter. Told him a bit about me. And I said, I know you're part of the disability. Aww. Aww. Well, come back in and leave any comments. I'm going to keep going. But, when I wrote to Chris, I basically told him you're going to meet some nice people in the world and you're going to meet some real jerks in the world. But you cannot let that deter you. If you're determined to get where you need to be, you keep the fight, man. You keep up the fight. That's what my life is about. Keeping up the fight. Letting people know I'm there. Because if you watch the film Straight Talk, Dolly Parton's character, Shirley Kenyon, gives some good advice. You got to get out there and honk your own horn, because otherwise nobody's going to know whether you're coming or going. And that is the truth. You got to get out there and honk your own horn, because nobody's going to know you're coming if you don't. So, okay. I think since my friend is leaving the stream, I'm going to end it here. Let me know what you think about the way not just Sesame Street has been handled, but we could talk about the Disney bull crap. We could talk about how the records were being handled in the 90s. We could talk about the best album that Bob McGrath ever did as a solo artist, or the worst album that Bob has ever done as a solo artist. I want to tell you that if you want to do something to honor Bob, get a cape made. If he's your hero, if he's your ultimate hero, go to the link that is provided in this stream. You'll have to go back up through the stream. If not, I will post it in the bottom of the video if they'll allow me to. If you can, copy and paste it. But you can go to Etsy, to the link that I will provide below, or you could check here in the chat. You could have a cape made in honor of Bob, because she's going to do a black cape with the name Bob in white on the back with a lightning bolt going through it. Hopefully she'll get it done soon, and once I get pictures, I'll be sure to share them with you. But I'll probably wear it either on his birthday or Christmas, or just whenever I feel like I want to wear it. I don't care how old I am. I'm 52. If I want to wear it, I'll wear it. But if you want to, get a cape for Bob McGrath. Customize it with his name and keep his memory alive. And if you're a fan of Luis or Gordon, do the same for them if they mean a lot to you. Do whatever you can. I even have a teddy bear made for Bob with Bob McGrath in a little Superman suit. I'll put that on my video sometime this weekend. So I know my friend that's over in Japan signed off, but since this stream worked out so well and I had a gentleman come in and do some talking, I'll do this again, because this was something that I've been wanting to happen for quite a while. Please keep Bob McGrath in your thoughts and prayers, Emilio Delgado in your thoughts and prayers. And let's not forget, 41 years ago, I think Will Lee had left the world. Mr. Smurl is no longer here. And a couple of other Muppeteers aren't here anymore. I think Richard Hunt died in 1993. So he's been gone for 30 years. So, yeah. And Jerry Nelson recently passed, and Carol Spinney recently passed. So we got to keep this history alive, people. That's all I'm saying. We got to keep the good history alive. Elmo will always have a backseat to this channel. If you see him, it's going to be very, very, very rare. So, yeah. If he hadn't saturated the television show so much and given the other Muppets that had seniority, equal camera time, I wouldn't be so mad. I'd be more receptive. Even Abby Cadabby don't get that much airtime. So, yeah. Well, I'm going to get off, ladies and gentlemen, get something to drink, and get ready to wind down and get to bed by 7:30, 8 o'clock. So, yeah. All the best to the sesame seeds out there. Let's keep this flame alive. And there's a particular episode I'm looking for. The full episode where Louise makes Harry cry. I know I used like a little scene that I found on YouTube in one of my videos. I think it was for a Celine Dion section of the video. But I want the full video of where Louise goes apeshit crazy over grape juice on his shirt. And there's another one where Bob is dressed up like a bee. And I want to find that one and post it. And I want you guys to let me know what episodes may have jumped the shark and what your favorite albums are. What's the worst songs that Sesame Street has ever done? We could talk about anything and everything. So have a good evening, everybody. And hopefully by this weekend, I'll get back on again to do a live stream. If you have any set time that you want me to get on, I'm at Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. Please let me know what time Eastern Time you want me to go live on the weekend. I'll be sure to check into that. Just leave it in the comment section below, and we will get back on here and talk about whatever it is we want to talk about. This is what my channel is for. Not for the YouTube suits to decide on what we can and cannot talk about. I want to dedicate this to Jim Henson. I want to dedicate this to Bob McGrath and the other live cast members that kept the show going for as long as it has. And I want to say special prayers to Alan and the other young man that is still on the show. But in truth, it really isn't the same, and it will never be the same without the OGs, the best OGs, in my opinion. And shame on HBO and Sesame Workshop for doing what they did. And as to Steve Whitmire, my heart is with you, good buddy. My heart is with you. I will always be angry with Disney and Sesame Workshop for what they did. So, yeah. Have a good night, everybody, and I'll talk to you again really, really soon. Bye.